right, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Teresa. I'm one of the dietitians that works here at Fulton County Health Center. And we're going to cover today how to deal with cravings. We're going to focus on how to control the cravings so the cravings aren't controlling you. My goal is that you'll find balance in maximizing your nutrition for healthy lifestyle choices. Okay. So in the U.S. today, there's an overall abundance of palatable food, which can sometimes make it a little bit harder to control those cravings because there's constantly food available for us. So when you do have that craving, you don't have a hard time trying to find something to fill that craving. Unfortunately, with marketing out there, the ads are very sophisticated and they're everywhere as well. Most of the time, those ads are for processed foods, not necessarily your most nutritious, healthy choice. So that can play into making it that much harder to control your cravings because the first thing you're going to see is that ad or that marketing ploy to try and draw you in to pull at you to get those foods that are maybe not so nutritious. So we're going to look at today ways to help encourage you to make good food choices if you have a craving, or maybe try and assess that craving. What can I do to change my environment? If I'm not really hungry, I'm just craving something, what can we do to change our environment to make it a little bit healthier, to make better choices when we do have that craving? Okay. There was a study that was done that said that behavior therapy, healthy eating and exercise are the best approach to a healthy lifestyle. So those are the things that we're going to look at on controlling our environment to make sure that we can have the tools that we need to control those or deal with those cravings. Okay? So I thought the best thing to do would be to start looking at what do we crave? When we're trying to control those cravings, what can we do to control them if we don't really know what we're craving? So is it the sweet or salty? Is it savory? Are we craving the texture? Are we craving that creamy texture? Are we craving that crunchy texture? Or are we craving all of the above? There was a study that was done and it found that sugar and fat are is the content of the food that we're most likely to crave. So sugar and fat is going to be the thing that foods that we crave contain. Okay? They also did a study and found that sugar works like an addiction or a reward, that it plays on the same part of our brain that illegal drugs do that form that addiction. So sitting down and assessing what we crave will help us to get to a point of deciding how to control that craving, as well as why do we crave those foods. Well, they're saying that cravings can be physical, psychological, and environmental, and those are the three factors you want to look at when you're trying to control your cravings or deal with your cravings. And unfortunately, like I said, those unhealthy foods are going to be easily accessible. So when you look at your environment, it can easily lead to cravings, and even when you're not hungry, it can make you think of food because there's advertising and there's plenty of food around. Something else that they said was emotions can play into the cravings. When you're sad, when you're happy, how many times do you look at food to resolve that emotional feeling? And they did a study and found that carbohydrates, or simple carbohydrates, otherwise known as sugar, can trigger the release of serotonin, which is a feel-good chemical. So if we're craving something sweet, we're going to be more likely to go for it because we're going to think, ooh, we're going to feel so good after we have that. So what can we do to control our environment to not have that happen? The taste of sugar releases endorphins, which is a natural high. It makes us feel good. And salty and sweet can release or trigger the release of dopamine, which is a brain chemical that motivates us to engage in rewarding activities. And so we think of those foods that are salty and sweet as a reward. And so what can we do to control that? Okay, so do we restrict the foods? Do we avoid the foods? Is that going to be our way of controlling that craving? And there's some studies out there that say the more you restrict or control that craving by avoiding it, the more likely you are to crave it. And if you're more likely to keep craving it and you've got it in the back of your mind that you're really craving this food, are you going to be more likely to reach for something else to try and fill that void? So restricting it or avoiding it may not be the solution. Are you somebody that can eat a small portion and then feel satisfied and then you forget about it? So you kind of have to sit down and assess, after you've decided what you're craving, sit down and assess, why am I craving it, and what in my environment can I make changes to, so that how can we control or deal with these cravings? So assessing your environment, can you get up and take a walk? Is it easy to sit down on the couch and start watching TV and then you're constantly bombarded with those commercials or the TV ads? Can you get up from that couch during the ads or during the commercials and move around, find a stretching activity, a strength training activity that you can do during those commercials so that you're not paying attention to the commercials, you're paying attention to an activity? Can you have a list of chores that maybe you can DVR that TV show, DVR it while you're running around doing a chore? When you get done, stop the recording and then you can fast forward through the commercials so you don't have to be exposed to all the ads. What can you do to change the environment so that you're not exposed so heavily to those TV commercials and the ads, or to the encouragement to crave the unhealthy foods? Okay. Another thing that you can do is acknowledge your successes. What did I do well today? Thinking about maybe you did have a cookie, but you only had one and not the whole bag. So that's an achievement. You controlled your cravings by controlling your portion size. I had one piece of chocolate instead of the whole bag of chocolate. That's a good thing. I took a walk instead of giving into my craving. Think about the things that you did well. If you maybe didn't do so well and you had 3 or 4 cookies, then what can I do to change the environment that I'm in so that I don't do that again? Or using that as a learning tool, but not as an excuse to keep eating the rest of the day. Well, this day went down the hill, and I gave into that craving. I might as well give into all the rest of the cravings all the rest of the day. We'll start again tomorrow. So kind of taking a step back and saying, you know what, I may have eaten that or fulfilled that craving. Step back and say, okay, but that doesn't mean I have to do it for the rest of the day. Can I make changes or make adjustments in the rest of my day to handle or deal with having given into that craving? And then there is stress. Stress is something that they found is it works on your brain as well. It's very hard work to deal with your stresses, and it's very hard work to deal with your cravings. So if you're dealing with something that's stressful, you may not have the energy to deal with that craving. So maybe you need to deal with that stress first. And maybe it is taking a walk to deal with the stress. Maybe it's calling a friend. Doing something to address that stress may give you a better opportunity to deal with that craving, to handle it or control that craving. Okay? There was a study done also that talked about emotional triggers that can set you up for giving into cravings. And so kind of thinking about how can I control the stress, because if I'm dealing with the stress and then I have the emotion, then I'm going to be more likely to give into the craving. So trying to think of ways to deal with that. And again, it's maybe taking a walk, maybe it's calling a friend, maybe it's writing it down. Different things that you can do to try and control that. And the very last one on there is sleep. How many of us get enough sleep? There was a study where they took the subjects to the study and they let them sleep for 4 hours a night, 5 nights in a row. And after that, they had them assess their hunger. As they went through, their hunger went up, and their appetite for high-carb and high-fat foods went up. And there's another study out there that said you have a tendency when you are tired and fatigued to reach for something that's high in carb and high in fat to try and give you energy. That it's in our back of our minds that, okay, I need energy, I'm tired, I need to get some energy. And the first thing that we're likely to grab is something that's high in fat and high in carbohydrates. So sleep can be something that you truly want to get enough of to try and give yourself the opportunity to control. Another study said that from people that had lack of sleep also had a decrease in the hormone leptin And that one is a hormone that helps us with the signal that tells us that we're full. And they had an increase in the hormone ghrelin, which is the hormone that helps your body signal that it's hungry. So when you don't get enough sleep, you're feeling hungrier, and you're not able to feel full quite as efficiently. So getting enough sleep, changing your environment to get enough sleep is a good thing. All right, another thing you can do for changing your environment is keeping healthy food in sight. We talked about how ads and commercials are constantly coming at us with the unhealthy or the processed foods. Keeping a bowl of fruit on your kitchen counter or on your kitchen table as a display, maybe that'll be the first thing you grab. In the front of your pantry, in the front of your refrigerator, have the healthier foods easier to grab. I've had people tell me that their way of controlling a craving is they will individually, they'll have a prep day where they individual portion out, say it's a cookie or a piece of chocolate, they individually portion it out and they stick the rest of it in a freezer in the bottom of their basement. I had somebody else tell me they put it in their husband's trunk of their car as they drive away. They won't be tempted because it's in the middle of the afternoon when they're tempted. Their husband's at work during the middle of the afternoon, so they're not tempted because it's at work with their husband. They can't get at it. So that was their way of controlling their environment to make sure that they would only eat the one portion and controlling their cravings. So kind of trying to figure out and assessing, okay, what am I craving? How am I controlling what I take in? Sometimes it's taking in a little bit. What can I do to make sure I'm portion controlling? Posting pictures of a healthy snack on your fridge and pantry door can be another one. Keeping these, you can go to choosemyplate.gov and they have a 10-tip sheet, and some of them are on ways to get more active. Having a list of activities on your pantry door can be a good way to, when you go to open your door to go get a snack, you see that list of activities. Ooh, maybe I should try that first instead of grabbing the snack and giving into the craving to see if you're really hungry. Have a list of chores that you want done and going and doing that chore and coming back and assessing, am I still hungry? Was I really hungry when I had that craving? These 10-tip sheets, they'll have ways to increase your fruits and vegetables, ways to increase your whole grains, ways to get more nutritious foods in your daily lifestyle habits. And so my suggestion is post it in your pantry, maybe even post it right in front on the shelf, tape it to the shelf so you have to reach around it to grab it, whatever the snack food is. And start with tip number 1. Work on it for a week, work on it for 2 weeks, assess it. Did it work? Keep doing it. It's a good, healthy lifestyle choice. If it didn't work, throw it out and move to tip number 2. There's probably 15 or 20 of these 10-tip sheets on that website, choosemyplate.gov, that you can use as a resource. So, the other thing is kind of changing our mindset. Think about how disappointed would you be if you're craving something salty and sweet and you get a few almonds and some strawberries? Would you be disappointed? You probably would get that saltiness from the almond, you'd get a little bit of sweet from the strawberry, and you possibly could be satisfied with that. Can I, 6 days out of the week, be satisfied with that as my snack and know that on the weekends when I'm around friends, they can help me control my portion size so that if I give in to a craving for something sweet, then I'm controlling the portion size. Think about apples and peanut butter. Watching that, thinking of that as a snack to get that salty sweet may be the solution on dealing with those cravings. This was just when I was flipping through clip art. I thought it was kind of cute. And it made me think, you know what? How many times do we try and find that excuse? We always try and have an excuse. And instead of having an excuse as to why we're giving into the craving, let's look for a solution. And so one solution is, if I'm craving something, let's try a drink of water. Will the drink of water resolve that craving or that hunger? And as we're increasing our fruits and vegetable intake, if we're following the 10-tip sheets and increasing our fruits and vegetables, increasing our whole grains, then we're going to need that extra water to get that fiber pushed through our system. So maybe just grabbing that drink of water as a solution to deal with the craving. Another one is keeping the fruits and the whole grains on hand. I had a a website that was talking about the American Heart Association recommends that for women, not more than 6 teaspoons of sugar a day, and that's 100 calories from sugar per day. So allowing yourself a little bit is not a bad thing. But they said for the most part, and for men, it's 9 teaspoons and 150 calories. Okay? So that's what you can allow yourself as a treat for the day, is that much sugar. And their suggestion was, and in ways to cut back on the amount of sugar that we're taking in, was to make sure if you have a snack, to make sure that it's carbohydrate, but it's a carbohydrate with fiber, not just plain carbohydrate. So that carbohydrate with fiber would be a fruit or a vegetable or a whole grain. And when you have that carbohydrate that your body is using, that's what your brain uses for energy, and that's what your muscle uses for energy. So it's good to get carbohydrate, but get a little bit of protein with it, or a little bit of fat, because then your body won't absorb it quite as quickly and it'll last longer. Okay? It said when you're planning meals, it suggested having a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat, a fruit, and a vegetable. It holds the meal over a little bit longer and makes it last a little bit longer. It gives you the carbohydrate from that fruit, vegetable, and grain so that your body and your brain has the energy that it needs to get through. Okay? Portion size is a big thing. If you think about your cravings, if you sit down and eat a portion of pretzels, you're going to be more satisfied if you're hungry than if you eat a handful of jelly beans. So kind of weighing, and a lot of times for snacks I recommend not more than 150 calories, so this is a little bit higher than I recommend a lot of times for snacks, but if you think about, if I'm hungry and I'm going to try and fill up on a snack, which one's going to satisfy me? And really watching that portion control. This was another thing that I thought about as you're planning and dealing with those cravings. Can you, if you skip a meal, if you eat a small meal, can you control your hunger for the next meal that you have? What adjustments can you make to a meal so that it fits in and you don't feel deprived and you're not so hungry by the time the next meal comes around? So I thought this little clip art I thought was kind of nice because it does give you some different options. If you sit back and you look at the calories, can I substitute a regular hamburger for that 550 calorie burger that's on here? Or a grilled chicken sandwich for the fried chicken sandwich that's on here? Would I be just as happy with a 6-inch sub as opposed to a foot-long sub? Would I be happy with just the burrito instead of the taco and the burrito? Would I be able to get water and drink water instead of the cola or the soda? What substitutions am I willing to make to substitute or decrease the calories that I'm taking in and still feel full so that I'm not craving those foods that I maybe don't want to be eating? So keeping our hunger in check is definitely important in controlling our cravings. So to not let yourself get too hungry is important. Thinking about those when we sit down to plan a meal. Could I be just as happy with 10 French fries and an apple instead of the whole serving of French fries? What can I substitute in and out for those meals? And then again, I'm going to cover drink water. Hunger can sometimes, or thirst can sometimes be disguised as hunger, so making sure you get enough water. Having that water at your desk every day to make sure you're drinking plenty of water. It may send you to the bathroom a little bit more often, but that's good because then you're getting up and walking. And getting that activity in is a good thing too to help control those cravings, okay? Definitely keeping that hunger in check. Maybe it's sitting down and doing a cravings journal to assess, what am I craving? Why am I craving? When am I craving it? Is it certain times of the day that I'm craving? And this is telling us that in 10 to 20 minutes, that craving should pass. So if I'm writing in a journal trying to figure out what I'm craving and why I'm craving it, will the craving pass by the time I'm done writing? Somebody gave me the suggestion that a piece of fruit and a glass of water 3 times a day can control your sweet craving. Now, when I looked it up and tried to find the study that proved that, I could not find it. However, I don't have a problem with encouraging fruits as opposed to sweets, so I thought, oh, I'll throw it in there. It won't hurt if you eat a piece of fruit, 3 pieces of fruit a day. You're supposed to at least give that. So getting 3 pieces of fruit and a glass of water as a snack, I would not be opposed to doing that, to try and see if it kills that sweet craving, but I did not find any research to back that. And some of it is taking care of yourself. We're in healthcare, we're very good at taking care of others. And so finding ways to take care of yourself can be a good way to keep those cravings under control and to be able to better handle the cravings if you've taken care of yourself. Again, stress makes you weaker and not as able to control the cravings. If you can find one of these activities to take care of yourself, it's probably going to help take care of that stress as well. And I do like the very bottom, again, it stresses the sleep, and I thought it was a great idea that they put hiking above it, because sometimes as you age and you don't sleep as well, maybe if you take that extra hike, you'd sleep better. So I thought, oh, that's a very good, and they're both free. So that is another way that you can kind of control your environment and control those cravings, is by taking into account, what am I doing to take care of myself, to keep that stress, to keep that control in my hands, okay? My kids will tell you that if they want a snack, my first question to them is going to be, what have you eaten today? Because I want them to realize, most important thing that food going into your mouth is doing is giving you the nutrients you need to rebuild new cells, to grow, and make sure that you're staying healthy. So, first question I'm going to ask them is, what'd you have to eat today? This is what a day's worth of food looks like. Some of the meals look kind of big, and that's because they added a meal and a snack together. So like the lunch, you'll see it's a lunch and an afternoon snack. So you can decide, maybe you want to have the fruit and yogurt for a snack. You'd get a little bit of protein in that yogurt, you get a little bit of fruit, you got your carbohydrate. If it's a Greek yogurt, you're going to get a little bit more protein. If it's the nuts and the fruit, that can be another thing that you can use as a snack. You're going to fulfill that sweet and salty and still get the foods, the nutrients that your body needs. So I just wanted to kind of, I liked it from the standpoint of it was a good idea of what a full day's worth of foods are. I had somebody tell me, well, you're taking all the fun out of eating. And I'm saying, no, I'm not taking the fun out of eating. I'm saying, take a step back. What nutrients are you looking for to get in your day to make sure you're getting everything you need to grow and to build healthy cells and to stay healthy? And starting with your 5 senses, would you, like I said, be happy with almonds and strawberries as a snack as you would with a candy bar? And sometimes you're going to feel better about yourself if you ate the better food choice with the more nutrients. And so some of it is taking into account, slowing down your meals, taking into account those 5 senses. What are you looking for in that craving to deal with it? Some of it may be seasoning your foods differently. And as you take some of the fat and the salt away, can you add herbs and spices? And maybe it's doing an herb garden, which would be another good activity to kind of do that herb garden when that craving hits. You can go take care of your herb garden, and then after you're done taking care of your herb garden, take a few mint sprigs and throw it in your water to get a little bit of flavor and sit down and think, okay, am I really hungry? And if you are still hungry, then what do I want to fill my body with? What do I want to use to give myself energy that's going to last? Okay? So when people tell me I'm taking all the fun out of their food, I'm saying, no, I'm throwing more fun in. Look at all these seasonings and spices you can throw in and all the phytochemicals that are in there to nourish your body. Look at all those different colors of fruits and vegetables that you can get, and look at all the nutrients, the vitamin C, the vitamin E, the vitamin A. Making sure that you get a little bit of fat with those vitamins to make sure that your body absorbs those. So what's the whole point of the talk in dealing with cravings? Figuring out how to control your environment so that you're cutting back on nutrient-poor foods, choosing more nutrient-rich foods, and finding that balance. All right. Any questions? I feel like I sped through the last part of it because I was looking at the clock. Okay. I'm done. Thank you for your time.